if annual sales remain at this level in Europe, then around 45 million heat pumps would be installed by the year 2030. Then there is demand for more housing in Germany, and of course the continued need for less dependence on fossil fuels.
This is the Podcast4Engineers, the podcast you just have to listen to if you're interested in what's going on in the semiconductor market. I'm your host, Kelsey Markl, and today I'm talking to Lara Kremer, who is the Global Application Manager for Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning. Lara, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Kelsey. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great. So we've had you on the show before. You've been on a couple of episodes talking about commercial HVAC, so commercial heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. But today we want to dive deep into residential side of things, specifically heat pumps. So I know just from watching the news, a lot of my friends building houses, buying houses, that heat pumps a few years ago were such a hot topic. Is that still the case?
Yeah, exactly. That was the case, exactly like you said, several years ago. I think everyone remembers the boom in the heat pumps market. There was a huge demand, and the reasons were basically the increasing energy efficiency and cost savings, but also environmental concerns and climate change. So as a low carbon alternative to the fossil fuel-based heating systems, heat pumps have become a popular choice for those looking to minimize their environmental footprints.
So popular that even you have a heat pump, I just learned.
Exactly, right. So we build a house and then, it's obvious that you also use a heat pump system.
Okay. So, what has changed over the past few years then?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 2 years, the growth in the market was slowing a bit. So for the first time in a decade, the annual growth in Europe shrank in the year 2023. The demand collapsed a bit, and many heat pump manufacturers were left with some components on stock then. I think overall the policy change is the number one factor. And another crucial impact was caused by the energy prices as well. These continue to be distorted in favor of gas and also fossil fuels, with electricity prices often being heavily taxed. And the energy crisis of 2022 had then also temporarily sent gas prices up, favoring electric heat pumps, but this is also no longer the case.
Okay, they've stabilized a little bit since then, right? But
Right.
You mentioned policies. What specifically needs to happen in terms of policies?
If annual sales remain at this level in Europe, then around 45 million heat pumps would be installed by the year 2030. Mm-hmm. But this would be around 25% short of the EU's aims.
Okay.
So the EU would miss out on potential investments, but also on net zero industry growth. But coming to your question, what needs to happen is to really boost the heat pump market, by continued commitment to the technology, by stable policies, strong, consistent, and forward-looking measures, and just creating a market environment that is shaped toward these, making these clean technologies the ones that are economically also the most attractive ones.
So you mentioned that heat pumps need to be more economically attractive. Are they not already attractive?
They are to some extent, but there was a recent study published by the university in Aachen in Germany and Octopus Energy. And this study says that buying and installing a heat pump in Germany is twice as expensive as doing the same in the UK.
Wow. Okay.
So the cost of purchasing and installing this 8 kilowatt air-to-water heat pump would be at around 28,000 euros compared to just 14,000 in the UK.
Okay, what makes them so much more expensive in Germany?
Yeah, so in the study, the most important reasons for this price difference are said to be a mixture of increased technical requirements, the different subsidy structures and taxation, as well as a more complex installation in Germany. So, for example, the outdoor unit is more than twice as expensive in Germany as in the UK. And in the UK, there's no separate indoor unit. And in the UK as well, the heat pumps are exempt from the VAT.
Oh, okay. So for the taxes. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas in Germany, the full rate of 19% applies.
Yeah, very
So
high.
that's a huge factor, I would say. And then also the subsidy system in the UK provides for a fixed subsidy of 7.5 thousand pounds for a heat pump, while in Germany, the subsidy is based on a percentage of the costs. Yeah, so overall, I think the study shows that politicians must finally take action, reduce taxes, and simplify subsidies, or even phase them out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lot still can be done or needs to be done. Do we see anything happening, any promising trends already in Europe?
Actually, at the moment, like right now, we see a slight upward trend again in the market. We see a slight positive dynamic in the market. This is indicated by, for example, an increase in the funding requests that we see. So in February, there was an increase of these funding requests of 85% compared to the January ones.
Okay,
year.
and this year, 2025 already.
Exactly. Then there is demand for more housing in Germany, and of course the continued need for less dependence on fossil fuels.
Okay.
And another factor is really that the people are slowly regaining confidence in changing their heating system at home.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of optimism then for the market. We talked about Europe already. What does it look like in the rest of the world?
I think in each region, the market is a bit different, and each region has different requirements. But actually, the rest of the world's heat pump sales look quite promising. So the global heat pump sales have increased by almost 30% since 2020. And although there was a 3% decline in 2023, but especially in the US and in China, the numbers look quite promising, and the market is quite stable. So China is currently the world's largest market for heat pumps in buildings. So this accounts for more than 1/4 of the global sales. And in 2023, China was the only major market where heat pump sales grew by even around 12%.
So it's good to see such promising trends in China. I assume this market is where a lot of the heating demand is coming from, right?
Exactly. So the heat consumption in buildings has grown faster in China than in any other country before over the past decade, which is making China the second largest market for space and water heating in buildings today, just behind the United States. And heat pumps consume on average 3 to 5 times less energy than electric heaters or fossil fuel-based solutions, though the use in the industry and district heating is still uncommon due to the low awareness and due to the upfront costs.
Okay, so it sounds like that could make a huge impact in a country where demand is so high, moving from coal or other heat sources to heat pump solutions. How has technology changed over the years? We talked a lot about the market changing, the funding, the policies. How has the technology itself changed from heat pumps a few years ago?
I think it changed a lot technology-wise. In general, purchasing a heat pump typically pays off in the end, in the long run, compared with other solutions. But high upfront costs remain a barrier. So a lot of these technology advancements go in that direction to decrease the upfront costs a bit. This can be done by increasing the energy efficiency, for example. This improves through technological advancements also in the inverter. The inverters enable the compressor to modulate its speed, adjusting to changing heating and cooling demands. And this then results in improved performance, reduced energy consumption, and also increased reliability.
Okay, so lowering your electricity bill, basically.
Exactly. And then there's the topic of smartification, smartifying your heat pump, and just the adding of smart features like connectivity features, sensing, but also predictive maintenance, which then enables something like real-time monitoring, optimization, and just adjustments of the heat pump's operation, and then ensuring maximum efficiency and also comfort for the end user.
Okay.
And the third point I would like to mention in regards of technology are the refrigerants, because this also changes continuously. There's a demand or a growing demand for natural refrigerants and refrigerants with a low GWP, so with a low global warming potential.
Okay, and refrigerants are needed in all heat pumps.
Okay. Exactly. So there's the R32 currently, very commonly used as an F-gas refrigerant. This is a good compromise between the cooling performance because it has a lower GWP of 675 still, but it's still better than the standard R410, which has a GWP of above 2000.
Okay, so it's about reducing the global warming impact, but also safety, I guess, would be an issue?
Exactly. So everyone right now is talking about R290, which is based on propane. And here the GWP is at 3. So at the
much lower.
Very, very minimum, This is a natural refrigerant and has also lower cost. But as you said, its lower point of flammability can be a safety hazard.
Okay.
And that's why, for example, gas and CO2 sensors are needed, not only to monitor the air quality, but also to check some leakages of the refrigerants.
Okay. CO2 sensors. Sounds like something that we might have in our portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. We do. In general, Infineon solutions bring more intelligence and also efficiency to modern heat pumps. But we have the full portfolio for heat pump functions in the indoor and outdoor unit. So we do have power supply components that drive the compressors, inverter, and the fan. We do have sensors that measure the CO2, radar sensors, pressure sensors, sensors for voice control, for example, but also microcontrollers that are responsible for the system control based then on the sensor's input. And then also this is complemented by wireless solutions that support remote control and internet connectivity.
Okay, yeah. So basically everything that you just mentioned, so the refrigerants, the smart features, and the energy efficiency, we have solutions for all of those three trends. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the governments and how the policies can really shape and influence the market. I don't know if you've been following the news, but if you look at the news, it's very, dynamic. Can the same be said about the future of heat pumps?
Yeah, definitely. So the market is very dynamic, and I think it will stay dynamic in the next years because, it is influenced by geopolitical factors. I think now at the moment more than ever, because there are unpredictable US tariffs at the moment. There's the new government in Germany. There are new government negotiations ongoing right now. So the assumptions about the market that we discussed today, they might be outdated again already in the next months.
Or tomorrow.
Exactly. But so it's still an exciting time for heat pumps, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the market evolves in the next years.
Yeah, we are too. So thank you, Lara, for being here.
Thank you, Kelsey. My pleasure. And it was really fun talking to you.
And it was fun talking to you as always. And to our listeners, thank you so much for following along. If you want to keep up to date on this dynamic market and many others in the semiconductor industry, stay tuned for more episodes.